Where to start? This movie was just an experience. What an experience! It's just so phenomenal, and there's just no words to describe. But let's discuss more in depth the actual what goes into the actual movie, and I'll even maybe go into depth about each, not every actor, but a couple of the actors and the interactions. But of course, I have to start with my boss, Baruch Perlowitz, and explain a little something that some people might not know about him, and probably the reason why he hired me. For starters, very, very, very not punctual, right? So I'm sorry, Baruch, in advance, that I'm going to be talking about your flaws over here, but it's important for everyone to understand how this movie, this production is put together, and how everyone's role and everyone takes part of it. But I just want to start. Let me start a step backwards. The flaws that Baruch Prowitz has, that he has me trying to step in and overcome, aren't really flaws. They're not the flaws, because those are really what creates the movie, and his lack of understanding time is what made things happen. Because if he would have known that the things that he did would have taken the amount of time he took, he would never have planned it like that. And he has a rule of thumbs that he always says is there aren't any problems, there are only solutions. And if we only have solutions and there's no time variable, it's pretty much can do anything. So it's the only way that the whole production happened is for his lack of time and all the flaws that I'm about to discuss. Another flaw that he has is that he's very laid back. He doesn't put pressure on anybody. He doesn't like telling people what to do. He'll make sure everyone knows what he wants done, but he doesn't know how to push people. So, kind of put me on that piece to be a little pushy and to interact with the crew with a little bit more of a stronger interaction, a little bit more less peaceful. Let's put it. Let's just because he's very much on the peace end of it. I would say that it's probably one of his best traits, because to have a film producer slash director, and all the names that he holds within this movie, that is covered in pressure and always just trying to push for things to. I mean, pushing is okay, but to over push and to be strong with the crew members, and it can ruin relationships. And therefore, if you don't have a perfect, a well put crew and team, it's not a team. And if there's no team, there's no production. The production cannot be as smooth as it is without the wonderful connection we each have and the bond that we each have. So I think the way we would put it is we play a good cop, bad cop. He's very sweet with the guys, and I sometimes start putting pressure. But because of his over sweetness with the guys, they don't take my putting pressure personally. It's more like, I'm tired, I want to go to sleep. It's 6 a.m., and we're filming since yesterday, 6 a.m., so please, like, really. And they understand it because of his flaw that he has, that he doesn't know how to be pushy. Um, there are a bunch more. I'm not going to get too technical now, but it's all pretty much these flaws are what brings this movie together and just makes this production the production that it is. And I've never seen anything like that in any form whatsoever. It's an unbelievable thing. Also, I mean, it's not an also. This is probably should be the main part of my point that I should bring out, is that I have to interact, like I said, on a daily basis with the crew members, from the actors to the uh, cinematographer to the sound engineer, everyone from beginning to end. I have to be busy with everyone and talking to everybody. So I develop some sort of connection to each person, and each person on its own level. Whoever I deal with more is obviously going to be more. But I can tell you, as a matter of fact, that there is no one on this crew, there's no one on this team that hasn't put in all their effort to just make this a wonderful production, and to put in a teamwork, and to just spend and be happy together. And even when we're not on set, we'll go and do things. Baruch will make sure that we go out to dinner, and go out for breakfast or have a barbecue, and just spend time and hang out with the guys. And everyone builds a comfortable experience with one another. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was just the production end of it, the stuff that I take care of, and in a little bit more in detail, and especially the difference between our production, Baruch's production, and a camp production, and any other Jewish film like that. What was unbelievable, and no one ever that I know of did a production like this, is that there was zero cutting corners, zero cheaping out. It was all about, we need to make this movie come out as best as we can. We're not going to look for loopholes and figure things out like that. It's just going to be simple. If I need to have cop cars and I need cops in it, I'm going to have real cop cars, real uniforms for the actors, so it should look legit, and there should be no differences. It should be literally as if it's a real scene. Another thing that we were very careful about not cutting corners is we had to film in a hospital, and during COVID, you can imagine it can be a very hard time to get a hospital to allow us to film in it. Nevertheless, Baruch doesn't like problems, only solutions. And he tells me, he's like, we're going to film in a hospital. I'm like, Baruch, how are you getting a hospital? We're going to film in a hospital. Next thing I know, he tells me, okay, we're going to the hospital. We have a hospital. We're going to film in the hospital. I'm like, this is mid-COVID. I don't believe you. Till we even showed up for the scene, which is a very hard, extensive, detailed, in a hospital scene. So you have to be prepared very well. I still didn't believe him we're actually doing it until we actually walked in there and started filming. And I was in shock. I'm like, this is not possible. Somehow, no problems, only solutions, we got a hospital, and we filmed in our own section in the hospital, but a hospital during COVID. Unbelievable. That just shows to the extent that Baruch Perlowitz took this and just blew it out of the park. He didn't care about anything. It just, we had food on set all the time to make sure everyone's satisfied, and no one should have any reason to leave. No one should feel uncomfortable. No one should. We gave everyone food, not just people on set for us, people that were there participating. Let's say the hospital staff in the nearby wings, they had to deal with us walking in and out of the hospital. We made sure that they had food, breakfast, lunch, and supper while we were there. It was just an abundance of Judaism, food. And of course, my job as production manager, I have to explain, as well as I acted, so the overlapping and how that played, it was actually pretty interesting. We'll get to that in a second. My job basically was that I had to make sure that everyone was satisfied, and the most demanding person was Baruch. I had to make sure that he had breakfast, lunch, and supper. I had to make sure that I tied his shoelaces in the beginning. I just had to make sure that everything was just, I'm kidding. I was very not demanded from at all. It was a very smooth, wonderful interaction with everyone. And I just had to keep it flowing and make sure that when we had a hospital shoot, I had to make sure that the costumes were ordered, all the logistics were taken care of. The actors knew where to come to, what time to come to, and especially the outdoor hospital scene, we dealt with many actors, including local law enforcement and even the hospital staff. They were doing other things outside at the same time while we were filming, so we had to coordinate with them so we don't overlap with them. The food, like I said so many times, a very important part, of course. Can't go hungry on set. And that's where it comes to outside hospital scene. I was busy acting in it as well a lot of the time. And to be able to coordinate one of the biggest scenes of the set, of the movie, as well as act in it, it was actually quite a hard, interesting role to play. I don't know if Baruch wants me to say this, but I think the hardest part is that my role, my acting role in the movie, was changed 2 days before that set was filmed. We had to change some things around, and Baruch's like, okay, you're the only one that understands this script from all perspectives. I'm going to need you to change parts. I need you to take, I was originally casted as the negotiator, and he had me change 2 days before. We filmed on a Sunday. Friday morning, he tells me, I need you to film as the sergeant in the police department. I'm like, okay, interesting. But we made it work. And like Baruch always says, and I keep on reiterating it because I believe that this should be the motto of the movie, and this should be the motto of all future movies, and this is the motto of Baruch. There aren't any problems, there are only solutions. There aren't any problems, and that's the attitude of that creates such camaraderie, such relaxed atmosphere for everyone. Because no matter how hard it's going to be, and no matter how late Baruch tells me he needs me to order these costumes for tomorrow's shoot, and I need to get Amazon to deliver them tomorrow, and be on the phone with Amazon because they didn't deliver it tomorrow, and then find a local shop that sells them as well, and then the local shop tells me, I'm sorry, you're not law enforcement, we're not going to sell it to you, so I have to find another local shop, and that local shop gives me issues, and whatever the case is, there's always problems that come up. So if you always work with that solutions only, you never have any sort of problem. So from beginning to end, it was a wonderful experience. I loved every second of it. It was probably the best part of my year, and I'm sure everyone else can say the same. And it was wonderful working with Baruch and everyone else, Maishi Grunfeld, Yosef Ginniger, Itzi Tzig. From beginning to end, Gershi Maskowitz, Yaakov Berger, Neil, of course, with all the Chil Hashems and the El and everything else. It was just wonderful. It was a wonderful team. I'm sure I missed names, just that I'm in such bliss right now. So excited to be talking about everyone that like my mind's not completely here to be able to name everyone. But it was just a wonderful experience. It was phenomenal. And it just, yeah.